The following is a presentation of RMG Sports, award-winning championship television.
The city of Pittsburgh has long been known as the City of Champions. With 5 Super Bowl rings, 5 World Series trophies, 2 Stanley Cups, and numerous national championships, it's a title that is well deserved. In the annals of powerboat racing, Pittsburgh is one of the most storied venues with a history dating back over 30 years. Today, over a dozen of America's finest from the Powerboat Superleague have come to the Steel City to challenge the rough waters of the Mon. Who will come out on top? Who will be the next champion in Pittsburgh? From the banks of the Monongahela River in beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it's the running of the Powerboat Superleague at the 2007 Three Rivers Regatta, presented by Trib Total Media. Hi everybody, I'm Jared Romsberg alongside my partner Mike Tilton, ready to bring you the action from Pittsburgh here today. And Mike, visiting teams that come to Pittsburgh, whether it's in Heinz Field, PNC Park, Mellon Arena, they know that Pittsburgh is a rough place to play. Boat racers know that Pittsburgh is a rough place to race.
Well, you know, they've been coming here for 30 years. And when they go down the straightaway, they normally throw one wake. But with the seawall on both sides, now they're hitting that twice, and it's coming at them from different angles. It's going to be a challenge, but I think the guys are going to be up to the task.
One guy that's up to the challenge is Jim Summers. He finished first last race in Peoria. He's a points leader right now. Can he make it 2 in a row here in Pittsburgh?
Well, he's got a brand new Pew boat. He took a year off of racing and came back with a vengeance. First time back in the boat, a brand new Pew hull, and he took home the trophy in Peoria, and he was one happy camper.
I'll bet he was. And speaking of Pew boats, Gary Pugh's racing here today. He usually does pretty good here in Pittsburgh. Can he get to the top of the podium this year?
Well, Gary Pugh is a 4-time Super League champ. He's in some borrowed equipment, which is okay because he built those boats, so he knows every one of them intimately. And whenever Mr. Excitement's behind the wheel, it's almost like money in the bank.
One guy we'll be looking for some exciting racing is local driver Dan Condren. Does he have what it takes to get on the podium in Pittsburgh and thrill his hometown fans?
Well, I think so. Last year he got 3rd place. He's looking for number 1. He's been a boat mechanic since the age of 14, and he told me just now 3rd place last year was okay, but he thinks the number 1 spot's going to be his.
Well, we have 12 other drivers that are looking to get to the top of that podium. Who's going to come out on top? Well, we're going to have all the coverage from green to checkered right here in Pittsburgh as we continue our coverage of the Powerboat Super League's racing at the 2007 Three Rivers Regatta presented by Trib Total Media right after this.
This presentation of the Powerboat Super League is brought to you by GapGuard.com. If you own a pickup truck, you need to visit GapGuard.com. By Daniel Schaefer's. For home electronics, appliances, and furniture, make it Daniel Schaefer's. By Romsberg Media's real estate marketing services. Learn more at romsbergmedia.com. And by JohnstownPAHomes.com, the official website of RE/MAX Team Realtors. This segment of Powerboat Super League Racing is brought to you by GapGuard.com. If you own a pickup truck, you need to visit GapGuard.com.
And we welcome you back to Pittsburgh as our coverage of the Powerboat Super League's racing at the 2007 Three Rivers Regatta continues. Jared Romsberg here. Mike Tilton will rejoin us in the paddock at the end of the show. He's off doing his announcer thing for the thousands and thousands of fans that have joined us here today to enjoy the great racing. Many of them have come to see our 3 local drivers in today's race. Kevin Margetic from New Brighton is a veteran driver who has raced many types of boats before settling in with the tunnel hulls. As we mentioned in the open, Dan Condren from up the road in Sarver is looking to get back to the podium. He finished 3rd here last year. And finally, there's Lawrence Stalker, a pure, and I mean pure rookie. Not only is this his first boat race, guys, this is his first race of any kind. And nothing like picking one of the most difficult courses in the sport to make your debut. We wish them all the best of luck. Now, as in any type of motorsport, before you race, you must first prove yourself worthy of position in qualifying. Super League qualifying is a rather unique process. They start with time trials, where each boat runs a timed lap around the course. The driver with the best time earns the pole position for the first 15-lap heat race, and so on down the line. The finishing order of the first heat race is then inverted, putting the fastest boats to the rear and the slower boats up front for a second 15-lap heat race. Points are awarded based on how well you finish in both heat races. The driver with the most points earns the pole position for the feature race. In Heat Race 1, Gary Pugh earned the top spot and had the pole coming off the dock. But Paul Pittman in the yellow turboprop boat wouldn't let him get too far ahead. As we approached the final laps, the lap boat of Dan Condren became a problem for Pugh. Here they almost collide. This allowed Pittman to pick up some much-needed ground. But Pugh would skate past Condren and go on to win Heat Race 1. In Heat Race 2, officials did not invert the field because of the challenging course here in Pittsburgh, and Gary Pugh again took off with the lead. And again, Paul Pittman stayed right in his back pocket. On the final lap, Pittman pulled to within a boat length, but Pugh put the hammer down and went on to win the second heat race. So with that said, here are the top 5 qualifiers for the 2007 Pittsburgh Three Rivers Regatta. Starting in the 5th position is Okeechobee, Florida's Jeff Reno. He knows a great start is paramount to victory.
Well, I got to try to beat the other ones off the dock and beat them to the first turn, or at least be beside them at the first turn, give me a chance to run down the front straight with them. And the end of that front straight's really going to tell the tale of where everybody's going to play out.
Next in 4th is Donnie McDowell. The Tampa, Florida native is happy with his qualifying run.
Didn't really mess up anywhere. Thought we did pretty good for qualifying. That's the second time out for that particular hull, and it's a new boat, and we were happy with 4th on a qualifying run and hope to, get a little better in the race.
In 3rd, we find the Super League's points leader, Jim Summers from Overland Park, Kansas. He is still trying to get this new boat dialed in.
Well, being that it's a new boat, I've been having some issues with getting this boat to qualify well on the dock for some reason. I don't know what it is. I'm probably just not driving the boat hard enough, but when we get into a racing situation, it's gloves off there.
The professor, Paul Pittman, will line up 2nd. What adjustments will he have to make before the feature?
Well, we're discussing that right now, seeing if we can get a little bit more bottom end speed, because it's kind of a short course, but we were running pretty good. We caught up to Gary and see if we can get just a little bit more out for the final.
And finally, starting 1st, is Knoxville, Tennessee's Gary Pugh. He's happy with earning the pole, but not with his performance.
I really didn't think it was that good. I'm just getting used to the boat. I set it for the first time this morning, and didn't think it was that great a run, but apparently it was good enough.
Now here's the rest of the starting field for the Powerboat Superleague's racing at the 2007 Pittsburgh Three Rivers Regatta. North Augusta, South Carolina's Lee Daniel will start in the 6th position. Local driver Kevin Margetic from Beaver County earned the 7th slot. Right behind him in 8th, we find our 2nd local driver, Dan Condren from Sarver. Starting 9th is Portsmouth, Ohio's Del Book in the Book Brothers Marine number 18. The Hurricane, Michael Floyd from Rincon, Georgia, qualified in the top 10. The 05 Super League Rookie of the Year, Barry Wolf from Troy, Ohio, earned slot number 11. The hometown rookie, Lauren Stalker from Pittsburgh, picked up the 12th position. Steve Ernst qualified 13th, but mechanical problems will keep him out of the race. That makes for a long drive back to Lawrenceville, Georgia. And that's your starting lineup for the 2007 Three Rivers Regatta. Gary Pugh, Paul Pittman, and Jim Summers are your top 3 for the Powerboat Super League feature race here in Pittsburgh. There's a field of anxious drivers just waiting for their shot at the top spot. Hey gang, we're putting boats in the water. Grab a friend, grab a drink, grab a flotation device. We're going boat racing in Pittsburgh when we come back right after this.
This segment of Powerboat Super League Racing is brought to you by Daniel Schaefer's. For home electronics, appliances, and furniture, make it Daniel Schaefer's.
Welcome back to Pittsburgh as we get ready to start the Powerboat Super League's feature race here at the Three Rivers Regatta. We welcome all of you watching on television as well as those of you watching online at roomsburgmedia.com. The drivers are completing the parade lap, greeting the thousands and thousands of fans that have joined us here on this muggy Independence Day. We ride along with Donnie McDowell as he says hello to the fans. Pittsburgh is one of the most popular venues for the Super League drivers. Its history, the challenging waters, and the fans make it one of the best. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's race, and we will see Gary Pugh firmly on top. He was fastest in practice, fastest in the time trials, and he won both heat races. Still, Paul Pittman, Jim Summers, Donnie McDowell, Jeff Reno, and the rest of the gang know that all of this means nothing as soon as the race begins. This is the calm before the storm. The 12 drivers are waiting for the flag to drop and to start the feature race, and it does, and we are underway in Pittsburgh. The top 6 drivers take off from the dock, and you can throw a blanket over them. Summers takes an early lead, but Pugh and Pittman shoot up on the inside. As we hop on board with second place Paul Pittman racing a few feet away from the leader Gary Pugh as they lead the field down the backstretch and into turns 3 and 4 for the first time. Zero visibility as we come out of turn 4, and Jim Summers has moved to the outside of Paul Pittman to challenge for the second place spot. Pittman slams the door on him as we see Gary Pugh cross the start-finish line as we start this 30-lap feature in Pittsburgh. Summers isn't letting up on Pittman, but he went through turns 1 and 2 a little rough, and Pittman has stepped out with the second spot. Gary Pugh has the throttle mashed down as he heads down the backstretch, trying to take advantage of the smooth water here on the Monongahela during these early laps. He took turn 4 a little wide, giving Pittman a chance to make up some ground. Pittman shoots to the preferred line, the inside, trying to catch up to the leader, but Pugh has this boat dialed in perfectly, and he slides away from Pittman and dives into turns 1 and 2. Gary Pugh took the lead from Pittman on the first turn of the first lap in the season opener in Peoria. Pittman is looking for some payback as we join local driver Dan Condren for an interesting view from inside the cockpit. He has already moved up one position into 7th from his 8th place start. Condren finished 3rd here in his hometown last season. You can see that in addition to sometimes having no visibility, it is no picnic trying to get these boats to go where you want them to. Condren muscles this boat through turns 3 and 4, and we get a beautiful view of the skyline of Pittsburgh, while Condren accelerates to well over 100 miles per hour and shoots under the Smithfield Street Bridge. Not a smooth ride by any stretch, and we are just getting started. Back to our leader, Gary Pugh, who is trying to get as much distance as possible between him and second place Paul Pittman. He laps Lawrence Stalker, putting the rookie a lap down early. As I said, Pugh led much of the season opener in Peoria, but a violent crash towards the end of the race ruined his day, and he went home 3rd behind race winner Jim Summers and Paul Pittman. Pittman is doing everything he can to catch up to Pugh, but these waters in Pittsburgh are getting rougher every lap. We ride on board with Paul Pittman, and you can see the rooster tail of the 38 boat is not too far away. When these drivers take turns in these boats, like this one right here, they can experience over 3 G's of force. This is comparable to what our fighter pilots experience. Imagine going through that 60 times in a 30-lap race. Pittman is a 25-year racing veteran. He finished 3rd in Super League points in 2006 and is currently sitting 2nd for this season. He's going to need to put every ounce of experience to work today to somehow get around a 38 boat that is out in front and seems to be getting further and further each lap. Back through turns 3 and 4 again, and Pittman is keeping Pugh in his sights while everyone tries to get a feel for this course here in the opening laps in Pittsburgh. While he watches ahead, Pittman must also keep one eye in the mirror because lurking in 3rd is our points leader, Jim Summers, in that beautiful red line oil boat. Summers is our points leader after his victory in Peoria. He took a decade off from racing and returned to the sport in 2004. He sat out last season to prepare for the 07 campaign, and it looks like whatever he did during that time is certainly paying off. In qualifying, Summers finished 3rd in both of the heat races. He had a phenomenal jump off the dock when the green dropped on the feature, and is just biding his time as we keep checking off the laps here in Pittsburgh. There was a perfect example of how rough it is to pilot one of these boats around the rough race course. Summers' boat actually left the water briefly, and that can be disastrous. The pride of Okeechobee, Florida, Jeff Reno, is riding patiently in 4th right now. He's riding in a boat that was designed by the Seabold family, who are no strangers to these waters. Tim Seabold won here twice in the 90s, so they know a thing or two about how to get to the top of that podium. Reno has had a great career with the Super League, finishing in the top 10 in points the past 5 years. He wrapped up last season in 4th and is looking to move up the ladder this year. A top 5 finish here in Pittsburgh would certainly help, but he would rather be on top of the podium. His boat looks like it's on rails, and he's trying to move up through the field as quick as he can. Climb back aboard with Dan Condren, who is still riding in the 7th spot and is trying to muscle his boat around the Mon. Pugh, Pittman, Reno, Summers, and McDowell are your top 5. We'll be back with more Super League racing right after this.
This segment of Powerboat Superleague Racing is brought to you by Romesburg Media's Real Estate Marketing Services. Learn more at romesburgmedia.com.
We welcome you back to Pittsburgh just in time to introduce you to our new race leader, Paul Pittman. He took the lead on lap 16 by taking advantage of an error by our previous leader, Gary Pugh. Let's take a look at our crash cam replay to see what happened a few laps ago. Here's the turn 1 marker buoy, and here comes leader Gary Pugh. He clips the buoy and then shoots out of line. Pittman pounces at the chance, moves inside, and takes the lead away from Olympic 38. But now we turn our attention to a battle for the 4th place spot. Gary Daniel has moved to the inside of Jeff Reno as they head down the backstretch and through turns 3 and 4. Daniel again to the inside as the two fight side by side at over 100 miles per hour for position here in Pittsburgh. Reno holds the position by a nose as they cross the line and move into turns 1 and 2. Reno to the outside, Daniel to the inside, out of 2. Reno takes the spot. Now we look to the front of the pack as Jim Summers moves to the inside of Gary Pugh, taking the 2nd place spot away. And the hits just keep on coming for Gary Pugh, who led the first half of this race. As we see Jim Summers firmly establishing himself in the 2nd place spot, we have to wonder if the contact with the turn 1 buoy did more damage than first expected to the 38 boat that is now in 3rd. The buoys are thick balloons, but the fabric and ropes can get tangled in propellers. Lots can happen at 90 miles an hour in a turn. Summers is pulling away on a truly eventful lap. We watched him take 2nd from Pugh and Jeff Reno fight off a solid charge by Lee Daniel for 4th. That's all a distant memory to this guy, as Jim Summers must now focus on getting closer to Pittman to challenge for the lead. There we see Gary Pugh, who has to be beside himself. Veteran drivers sometimes make mistakes, and I'm sure he's just beating himself up mentally for hitting that buoy at the race's midway point. He suffered disappointment at the last race in Peoria when he crashed while in the lead. Now he has to ride out the remaining laps here in Pittsburgh, holding off anyone who might come up to challenge him for position. While he builds boats, Pugh is driving in a boat he borrowed from fellow Tennessee driver Jeff Shepard. Like any driver, I'm sure he'd be more comfortable in his own boat, but he was doing pretty well in this temporary ride before lap 16. Jim Summers is really flying around this course, putting more distance between himself and Gary Pugh as he tries to catch up with the leader, Paul Pittman. Pugh is not giving up by any means. He's still in the throttle, and I wouldn't count him out of this one until you see the checkered flag fly. He's a 3-time Super League champion, and you don't earn a title like that by giving up after a single incident. In fact, in his 32-year racing career, Gary Pugh has earned several world speed records, and he builds these boats for a living. He might have a trick or two up his sleeve before this race is over. Well, whatever trick he has, he better use it now, because Jim Summers is pulling away, and we are running out of laps here in Pittsburgh. We now catch up with our 4th place driver, Jeff Reno, who is trying to reel Pugh in as we pass through the remaining laps here in Pittsburgh. He fought off Lee Daniel a few laps ago and is trying to catch up with the 38. Jeff mentioned before the race how much he loves rough water racing. I bet he's having a ton of fun out there on the rough water here on the Mon. He'd better hurry, because our leader, Paul Pittman, is looking to end this race in a hurry and head back to Indiana with the trophy. You heard Mike Tilton and I refer to Pittman as the Professor. Well, that's not because he's a big fan of Gilligan's Island or makes radios out of coconuts. It's because he really is a professor. Dr. Paul Pittman teaches at Indiana University's Southeast Campus in New Albany, Indiana. It's just across the Ohio River from Louisville. Who says a higher education doesn't make you faster on the course? I don't know. What I do know is that Pittman has a nice lead over Jim Summers and this guy, Donnie McDowell. McDowell isn't having the kind of race he was hoping for. The Tampa native earned the 4th place spot, but didn't have a good jump off of the dock at the start of the race, and that cost him. When you have such a high level of competition like you do here in the Super League, the smallest mistakes can just kill your race right at the start. McDowell was already a lap down and is about to be pushed further back in the pack as our 2nd place driver Jim Summers comes up on the outside. Summers is trying to catch up to Pittman, but the leader is already halfway down the backstretch, while Summers is fighting with lap traffic, rough water, and is just now coming into turns 1 and 2. McDowell moves to the inside and lets Summers pass on the outside, while our leader Paul Pittman is already going through turns 3 and 4. Pittman comes out of the turns and drops the throttle. He's not taking any chances. He can almost feel the trophy in his grasp, but he's not about to let up in any way. 1 lap to go, 1 more mile around the Monongahela. One more pass in front of the fans at Station Square. And all those fans that are enjoying the race from the Smithfield Street Bridge. Now we let you fans ride aboard as the leader passes through turns 3 and 4 one more time and comes down the backstretch at full throttle. New Albany, Indiana's Paul Pittman will cross the line and win the Powerboat Superleague feature race at the 2007 Pittsburgh Three Rivers Regatta. Jim Summers will come in second. Gary Pugh will cross the line third. We'll be back with comments from the winner and more post-race coverage right after this.
This presentation of the Powerboat Superleague is brought to you by GapGuard.com. If you own a pickup truck, you need to visit GapGuard.com. By Daniel Schaefer's. For home electronics, appliances, and furniture, make it Daniel Schaefer's. By Romesburg Media's Real Estate Marketing Services. Learn more at romesburgmedia.com. And by JohnstownPAHomes.com, the official website of RE/MAX Team Realtors.
Welcome to the post-race show for the 2007 Pittsburgh Three Rivers Regatta. Here are the official results. More bad news for Gary Pugh. He was penalized a lap for race course and buoy infractions, dropping him from 3rd to 5th. Jeff Reno joined Paul Pittman and Jim Summers on the podium. Local drivers Kevin Margetic finished 6th and Dan Condren finished a disappointing 8th. Now let's catch up with Mike Tilton with our winner. Mike.
Thanks, Jared. Standing here now with the guy who was the 2000 Formula 3 champ here in Pittsburgh. In 2007, the brand new Formula 2 champion. Look at the smile on this guy's face. Paul Pittman, you are one happy camper this afternoon.
It always feels good to bring the turbo boat to the winner's circle when you're in Pittsburgh.
Tell you what, thousands of race fans in attendance this weekend. You went over there and signed autographs for over 45 minutes. They were just as happy for you as your crew chief is, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun to get pats on the back from the people who were cheering you on. They said, I was rooting for you, and you feel them rooting for you. It's a great crowd. They know boat racing here, and they love to see a good race.
There's your 2007 Pittsburgh champ, the Professor Paul Pittman.
And something tells me that smile on Dr. Pittman's face is going to be a bit brighter. This victory makes him our new points leader. He leaps ahead of Jim Summers, but not by much. You can see that there are only 41 points separating first from third. Jeff Reno was the big mover after this race, moving 5 positions. Doug Young dropped 5 slots. To watch this race on demand or to buy a commemorative DVD, visit romesburgmedia.com. For Mike Tilton and the entire production crew, I'm Jared Romesburg saying thank you, Pittsburgh. Until next time, we'll see you on the water.